collection view for our handbook app. So let me show you this. Basically, we finished a lot of this screen and a lot of this screen. And so now we're about to get ready to do these little boxes using a collection view in iOS. So let's take a look at what we have so far. This is our storyboard, right? We've got our home view, and this is going to be that view, the browse, view. So we've got this browse thing here. Let me zoom in so you can see. Because we got a couple of them, right? We have browse and we have favorites that look similar. But browse is the one that we're working on. It's the one that has a search bar on top. We already installed that up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a collection view on this. We're also going to give this we're going to change the name of this view controller as well. So let's go ahead and add our collection view first. So I'm going to put that on there. Give it make it as big as we want it. And then I'm going to add constraints for that. Let's go 20 here. I really like even numbers. Boom, boom, boom. Add our constraints. Beautiful. Now what we need to do is go to our second view controller. Open that up. So first we've got our second view controller right here. What I want to do is rename that to our browse view controller. Browse view controller. Great. And that should change it here too, which it looks like it did, which is good. Okay, so now we need to put our collection view in there. So I'm going to go to the collection view and I'm going to drag this over here. Put an outlet to our categories collection view. Could not insert, could not find a class name, browse view control in the language Swift. This is because the rename hasn't registered yet, so I'm going to shut Xcode and restart it. Sometimes this editor makes me so sad. Yeah, I have too many things open, I know. What is going on? Try opening it from here. Give it a second to load. Great. Drag this over. And we will call this categories. Collection view. There it is. Great. All right, so now we've got our collection view, which will ultimately put stuff in. Let's go take a look at this design. So we have all these different colors. Figure out how to do the colors later. In the meantime, let's go ahead and make a custom cell type. So here's what we're going to do for that. What are our different things here? Scottish, Gaelic, Tattoo, Handbook, standalone views. So we'll do that. We'll make a new file. Cocoa Touch class. And it's going to be a category cell. UI. It's going to be a category cell extending UICollectionView cell. Perfect. There it is, and I'm going to stick it in standalone views. So let's take a look at our category cell. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shut this so I have a little more room to see what's going on here. So this is our category cell. That's great. Let's take a look at our main.storyboard now. Actually, let's shut this. We only need to work on one thing at once. So we've got this. We're going to open it. We're going to make this a category cell, like so. So now our category cell right there is identified. Looks good. Let's go ahead and put, let's decide how we want these to look by going into our collection view and putting several items like this. Yeah. So let's also make, yeah, that looks good. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to give it a background color. And before we do that, we're going to make all the background colors the same thing. Or rather, before we make them like switch it up, we're going to have them all be the same thing. But first, I want to go to the Browse View controller and make a list of categories. So, like categories for now is going to be, and we're going to change this later. So we just need those categories in there because what we're going to do is we're going to have the cells come up with that as their text. So here's what we'll do for that. Is in our main.storyboard, we're going to take each of these cells and we're going to give it a label. So I'm going to bring a label out here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make it wider. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to center that horizontally and vertically in its container. And then I'm also going to give it constraints on its like width. Here. Boom. This needs to be 0. Add those two constraints. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take the cell, the individual cell, and whereas in the size inspector, we want to give this thing a specific width. So I'm going to make its size, let's go with 128 by 128. That's fine. And then also, in order to do that, in our collection view size inspector, we have to set our estimate from automatic to none. Yeah. All right. So now in the code, what we got to do, there are a couple different things we got to do in the code. First, let's go to our category cell here. Open our main.storyboard again. All right, so we have it here. What we're going to do is we're going to take our label And we're going to connect it up in here. And the reason we can't is that this has to be set to a category cell. Perfect. And we are going to call this category label. Let's try it the other way. Click, drag. All right, that way appears to have worked. Sweet. And then what we'll do is we'll have like a function called what do we want to call this? So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting up the view. Set up view with for category, and that's going to be a string that we're going to take in, and we're going to say self.category_label.text equals category. Yeah. All right. So now we're going to be putting our labels together, and now what we need to do is go over to our Browse View controller, and now we need to implement some stuff. So we have to do Browse View controller and do UICollectionView data source. And we need to do the same thing for delegate. Type Browse View controller does not conform. So let's add the protocol stubs. Beautiful. We will deal with those in a second. And then we also want to do this for the delegate. Delegate. All right, so great. And then we also need to do self.categories collection view delegate equals self.categories collection view data source equals self. Yeah, forget about this. And then we need to do, what is this, collection view number of items in section, and then self for item at index path. So number of items in section. Here, that's going to be return however many categories we have, self.categories.count. And then in here, what we're going to do is we are going to get our cell, like each given cell. So we're going to do that like this. Return cell. So where do we get cell from? Let cell equal self.categories collection view dot DQ reusable cell with identifier. What do we want this to be? We'll say category cell dot identifier, and we'll go and we'll define that in a second for index path, because we get the index path passed in right there. Okay, so let's make this a little bit easier to read, like so. And then we'll say as collection, or rather, what's it called? Category cell. So this needs to be that. And we'll worry about the other part later. cannot find category cell in scope. Category cell is right here. And we're going to give this an identifier now. So let identifier, or rather, yeah, identifier equals. Now how do I stringify the class name? String describing. Like that. Cool. So for that, I'm going to pull this maneuver again. If it can't find things in scope, I find that this helps. Instance member identifier cannot be used on type category cell. Did you mean to use a value of this type instead? So I think this needs to be, so let me look up static attribute Swift, or rather class attribute Swift. I don't think that this is what I want. What just happened? Let's try, yeah, here we go. Why does it keep doing that to me? Properties. Let me move real quick. Okay. A lot going on over here. All different kinds of properties. This is what I'm going to do in the meantime. I'm going to go to my category cell. And I'm going to say func identifier return. I'm going to say it returns a string. And I'm going to move it down here. There we go. So now wherever we were, what? There we go. So I'm still not sure that that's going to work because this could be an instance situation. I really need to figure out this class property thing. Class stored properties not supported in classes. This is what we're going to do in the meantime. We'll do it here. And then we need to go into our main.storyboard and set the reuse identifier on the cell. Nice. Here's the reuse identifier. Not actually where I had it. This is where you want the reuse identifier. So now the category cell is going to hang on to this reuse identifier. Let's go see what's wrong here. So here we need to do else, return. You're never going to get to this as my help, but there it works. And that should build. It's not going to look like anything yet. Fantastic. So back in our browse view controller, before we return this thing, we need to do cell dot setup view for like whatever each of these are, right? So this needs to be self dot, what the hell is it called? Categories at index path dot row. Index path dot I think it's row, but it actually might be item. We'll find out shortly. As runner. Yeah, we have to deal with that later. There we go. So we got our things coming back. They're not exactly the right width and everything. Let's try this now. Let's go to our category cell and do some of this configuration stuff, right? So I also want to do self dot background color. Let's use system pink for now just to make sure it works. Cool. So it gives us these. You know what? I really want to see how this looks on a different device. So here's what we're going to do. And run that. Well, that builds us look at our design and figure out how we want this to go. So it starts purple and then it goes teal, teal, maroon, maroon, gold, gold, purple, purple. So it looks like 1, 2, 3. So it goes 2. If it's 2 or 3, you want one. If it's 4 or 5, you want another. All right, we'll have to figure out how to get that to work. In the meantime, wow. All right, while that's happening, let's do one more thing. Let's come in here and make these like a little bit more realistic. So, what is it? Family, place and identity, family, love and friendship. And I'll show you where we get these later. Wow. Family, love and friend. In memoriam, religious and spiritual. That'll give us an idea. Great. Sweet. Now, these, we're going to want the text centered, and we're also going to want it to be able to be on multiple lines. So let's go and adjust that next. So we want them to be on each of these. The label text is going to be centered. We also want it bigger. And we want the number of lines to be 0, so it'll expand to fit the correct number of lines. So now if we run it again, you'll start to see this take shape. Beautiful, right? So now we need to give it the appropriate font and color. And if we look at this, we see that it's going to be the same as the font that we have on the first page. So we'll go take a look at what that was. We're going to want it to be white also. So it's this font, Hefler text. So we're going to click on this, custom, and then we have to find a Hefler. I'm going to say 22, see how that looks. Yeah. And then we'll make the color of the text white. See how that looks? Nice. Eventually we could use a custom font for this, but in the meantime, this is pretty close. Okay, so now let's start to use some of these colors, because we know we want that one to be a color, this one and this one, this one and this one, so on and so forth. So how are we going to do this pattern? Category cell. So what we're going to do is add at index. All right, and then what we're going to do is in category cell, at position. Yeah, so if position is equal to 1, well, we'll do this. Switch position, case 0, case 1, case 2. Well, case 1, 2, case 3, 4, case 5, 6, case 7, 8. Okay. And then we'll do a default. Oh my god, it's so mad. Great. So in case 0, we're going to say self.background color purple. And then teal. These are not the actual colors. We're just getting our situation set up. Maroon, red. This is going to be totally not the right color. Like, they're all going to be not the right color, but that one in particular is going to be wrong. Gold? No, yellow. But we're just getting an idea for how this is going to look. Self.background color. Purple again. And then let's set the default to something that'll be super obvious as a default. Great, so now if we run this, okay, so system teal is apparently blue and system red is apparently bubblegum color. That is amazing. Let's add some more items and see how this looks. So we have, what else? Courage, honor, and military, work, activity, and identity. Courage, honor, and military. Work, activity, and identity. Ultimately, we're not going to hard code these. We're going to get them from a service. Oh boy. Emotion, quality, and concepts. Gaelic proverbs. And expressions. Cool. Alright, well these colors are super off, but that is what we're looking for. Now if there's more of them, I wonder if there's a pattern that we can identify here. Because it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then presumably at 9 we go back to that kind. Right? I'm going to have to think about that a little bit more. If you have ideas, drop them in the comments. But in the meantime, we have this, which we're going to have to change. We're ultimately going to want to put a picture too. There's a picture in the background. And we have a couple different ones of these. But let's go ahead and do that while I have you. And then maybe we'll call that for the day. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Let's zoom this in so you can see it good. Yeah. Image view. Oh my gosh, it's so big. So on the image view, what I'm going to say is I want it to center horizontally and vertically in the container. And then I want it to work off of aspect fit. Yeah, so it's going to be aspect fit. And the image view is going to go underneath the label. Yeah. That's what I want. And then what's going to happen is we need to connect this up to our category cell. And it's going to be background image. Yeah. Now I have a few different background images. Self, background image, image, from. So let's take a look real quick at the way we do this in the home view controller. Not these. Because what we want to do is we want to set the image with an alpha channel. Okay, so I want to borrow these. They're called Monkey Fist and Knot with Hooks. Great. Named Monkey Fist with alpha. That's not how you do that. Let's do set image alpha channel iOS. Alpha. All right, so it might be like this. So self self.backgroundimage.alpha. Oh, there we go. All right, and then we're going to say Monkey Fist is the purple one. And then we're going to say Knot with Hooks is the teal one. And then we're going to say, what are our other assets? So that's Knot with Hooks. That's Monkey Fist. I think there's another one. Maybe there's not. I think there is. Hold on. Yeah, these. Okay, so let's do this. Add an image set. And we'll call it square braids. I really need to come up with like, that's what this is, right? And then we'll make another one, other square braids. That's this one. Okay. Great. So now let's go to our category cell. And say square braids. And then we'll say other square braids. All right, let's see how that looks. Okay, not quite exactly what we were looking for, but we're getting there. I mean, that looks cool. It's not what we wanted, though. So the first thing is this alpha has to go way down. The second thing is that in the main.storyboard, this thing has to have these constraints. I'm going to say 0 there. There we go. Let's try that. Oh, that's pretty good. I think our alpha needs to go down even more. And maybe it needs to be a little bit like, I think actually the constraints on this image need to be like more. So what I need to do, for example, is undo the ones that I just added. The label I want to leave. Leading, bottom, top. So I want to pull these. And then I want to set them all to 10. And while we are at it, let's go ahead and set our, that still might be too high. We might have to go even lower. Because it's like almost, I don't know, it feels like it's super low. Actually, I think 0.2, because like this one you can barely see. I think 0.2 might be appropriate when these are the appropriate darkness, which they aren't right now. With like the yellow, obviously you can't see anything on the yellow. But if we make that Like if we change these colors to something a little closer, I don't know that that's going to be closer. We can try. We'll set these actual colors though. Those are not closer. But we're starting to get the idea of our collection here, and ultimately we'll make something happen when you click on each of these. But in the meantime, we've whipped up a collection view. We've worked a little bit on our design. In our next stream, we're going to work more on this design. We're going to get it closer to what we have in our example here. And we'll also work on what happens when you click on each of them. So that'll be next time. Have a good one.